Well, thank you and good day to all. As many of you know, getting support for urban forestry is often challenging, and we certainly experience this issue in Texas. In part, it's due to our booming economy and consequent high-velocity growth. But in part, it's because trees are relatively rare in much of our state, and it's often hard for people to imagine how trees fit into the landscape. You know, it's said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, this picture certainly tells you something, as does this one. And today I'm going to introduce you to a simple little software package that will help you share your vision of the urban forest quickly, easily, and perhaps without any words at all. But first, let's talk about why we even need to share our vision. I mean, trees are great, right? They are aesthetically pleasing and they provide so many benefits. We often say, if only officials would truly understand all the benefits that trees provide, then we would see more money allocated towards trees. We say, if I could just get one more meeting with the city manager, with that big donor, with certain representatives, well, then they would understand what we are trying to accomplish. They would understand how great trees are for our community. The truth is they often do understand, but they're focused on specific problems. Problems such as crime-ridden neighborhoods, unsafe roadways, the loss of retail and development to neighboring cities, or too much development, low-ranking schools, absence of a sense of place, and so on. In urban forestry, one of the ways to accomplish our vision, in the face of dwindling budgets especially, is to find out what are the specific problems that the community is concerned with and recommend trees as part of the solution. CanVis visualization software developed jointly by the USDA Agroforestry Center and the NOAA Coastal Services Center is a simple tool that allows you to use your own photographs to create simulations of how the solution could look. It is your extra 1,000 words that keep on speaking after you've made your pitch. CanVis allows you to share your vision with stakeholders and let them pass it on. Today we're going to look at several simulations that we produced in Texas to address specific community problems, and then I'm going to give you a short video tour of how to use the software. In 2008, Galveston, Texas was severely hit by Hurricane Ike and lost nearly 50% of its total canopy. An estimated 45,000 trees were destroyed due to wind and saltwater storm surges. Some areas suffered complete tree loss, including all the lovely large live oaks that spanned the main boulevards and gave a sense of place to the community. Broadway is the end of the highway from Houston, the main drive into town, and the loss of the stately live oaks that used to line the median was devastating to residents. So what's the community problem here? Well, it's major canopy loss and community trauma. And our solution? Plant trees. One thing we know in urban forestry is that planting trees gives people hope and a sense of connectedness. Galveston seemed to understand this, but with such a large geographical area, the city was at a loss where to begin. So following cleanup and tree removal, TFS partnered with the city to select several highly visible areas, like this main boulevard, and created simulations to help the city select which recovery planting on which they wanted to focus. High traffic, high use areas that would tell the community recovery was possible. This scene is the same intersection as the previous scene. You can see the statue, but it's on the right-hand side in this photo now. There was some discussion with the Historical Commission about not replanting Broadway at all, since the thought was the lost live oaks were planted by early residents and not natural to the area. And the sentiment was that this beloved tree-lined boulevard would never be as it was anyway, so why bother? This particular simulation was the deciding factor to put trees back along Broadway. When TFS forester Matt Weaver, who created the simulation, met with the Historical Commission on site, and the commission stood directly in front of the bare esplanade with a blown-up poster of this simulation, they approved the planting in just about 3 seconds. Galveston Island Tree Conservancy came on the scene in June of 2009 through a grant from TFS and really dove into this tree recovery process. They obtained a large grant from Apache Corporation specifically to replant the Broadway Esplanade. This post-planting photo was taken shortly after planting in May of 2010, nearly 2 years after Hurricane Ike. Working together with the city, TFS and the Tree Conservancy developed a tree planting plan for the city using simulations representative of nearly all planting sites, such as this median on Market Street. All main boulevards, including this one, have been replanted. And in 2013, Galveston was selected for the Blue Trees Project, which is a unique art installation that uses biologically safe, vivid blue mineral pigment applied to the trunks and the branches of the trees in order to bring them out of the background and call attention to the importance of trees in our lives. This is Gus Allen Senior Park, and many of the homes in this neighborhood were completely destroyed. As you can see, that one house in the background, you can completely look all the way through it. Galveston Island Tree Conservancy and TFS used CanVis to help encourage a partnership with the Episcopal Women's Group that resulted in planting this hard-hit area in the spring of 2011. Gus Allen Senior Park is now the most planted park per square foot on the island. McCoy's Lumber Company was founded in Galveston, and it has its flagship store there. They wanted to restore this particular park, Adu Park is its name, as all the trees in this park were lost. McCoy's had no clue to species or design, so we prepared several different simulations to assist them in their replanting efforts. CanVis was a valuable tool across Galveston, both in species selection and design layout. Here in Adu Park, it was decided to use a different species in a row on all 4 streets that surround the park, but in each corner have a signature tree. Conroe is the county seat of Montgomery County and located about 45 minutes north of Houston on I-45. Originally a sawmill town, Conroe saw a brief period of wealth during the 1930s, thanks primarily to oil profits. When the local oil-based economy collapsed, though, more or less so did the city. But like most communities in Texas these days, it is growing. Population is now over 60,000. Conroe has a central business district, but it wasn't very attractive. This is significant because just 1 mile from Conroe's southern border is the Woodlands, a high-end, unincorporated, master plan community with a population of over 120,000. The Woodlands has an average household income double that of Conroe and lots of upscale shopping. But because the Woodlands is actually a giant subdivision begun in the late 70s, it doesn't really have a quaint Main Street type walkable shopping district. Root for Conroe, a nonprofit group dedicated to tree planting and education, wanted to beautify downtown Conroe and make it a quaint Main Street type walkable shopping district in order to pull some of the retail traffic from the Woodlands and North Houston. So this community problem is an unattractive retail center. Solution? Plant trees. This simulation along Pacific Street helped convince Union Pacific Railroad to allow them to use 20 feet of the railroad right-of-way for planting. Planting has begun, and the simulation sparked additional plantings and revitalization nearby. Magnolia is a small community on the other side of the woodlands. The city itself is tiny, about 1,500 in population, and only covers 2 square miles geographically. But it serves a much larger area. In fact, the school district covers 147 square miles, an area that includes more than 65,000 people. The community has lacked an identity. With sprawling growth, there's been Old Town Magnolia, New Magnolia, East Magnolia, West Magnolia, and Proper Magnolia. City leaders have been trying to figure out a way to brand the community. So the community problem, absence of identity. Solution, plant trees. Ask a forester to help a community named Magnolia brand itself, and he or she will capitalize on the community's name, incorporating magnolias as anchors across the landscape. Here are saucer magnolias at the new Magnolia Town Center City Hall. What often happens in cities experiencing rapid growth is that subdivisions spring up on the perimeter that have no personality or associative identity with the community or the area. The city of Beaumont is no exception. Beaumont Parks Administrator contacted our foresters about a recommended tree list for a new road they were going to build. It was still in the design phase, but the administrator wanted trees to be included in the planning process and not as an afterthought. He showed our foresters this photo of a generic streetscape in another part of the city as an example of what he didn't want. Community problem, bland, generic subdivision. Solution, plant trees. We put together a couple of conceptuals of how the streetscape would look with trees. Different options were given to the Parks Administrator and the Planning Department to help them with their species selection. Beaumont is east of Houston at the south end of the piney woods, so loblolly pines figured prominently in the simulations. Port Arthur is an industrial town dependent on the oil and gas industry. Unlike most of the rest of Texas, it is not seeing an upward growth trend. Over the years, it has experienced periodic boom and bust cycles typical of that industry and the associated transient populations. It also has a significant air pollution problem related to the large industrial complexes located in the area. Community problem, air pollution. Solution, plant trees. Funding was available for road improvements, and one of our foresters saw this as an opportunity to get trees planted. In a matter of minutes, he created this visual to put into the hands of decision makers. This is downtown Port Arthur, and it has more problems than just air pollution, as you can see. For decades, it has been virtually vacant, boarded up, and unsafe. Revitalization discussions are periodically on the table. The Economic Development Council approached TFS about possible species for the area, which is often our chance to get involved in the conversation, and our foresters saw this as a chance to share the vision. So community problem, economic decline. Solution, you know that by now, it's plant trees. Now, how do we get from the broken down town to this happy, healthy community? I'm going to use this photo simulation to give you a quick demonstration of the software. If you can create a PowerPoint presentation, you can use CanVis. But something to keep in mind before you load your photo into the software, make sure the photo you select is a great scene with clear blue skies. It helps make the simulation look attractive. Now, Emilio, let's play the demonstration video. So from the library menu on the toolbar, select trees and choose whatever species grows well in your location. The tree pops up on the screen, and you can shrink it or stretch it using the corners, just like any image in Word or PowerPoint. You can drag it to where you want it. You can repeat it until you've got the trees that you want. Since crime is a problem, I took out the boarded up windows, graffiti, and unattractive streetlights earlier through Photoshop. but now I want to add some quaint street lamps that give it the distinction of a historic district. Again, I just shrink or stretch them to the appropriate size and drag them to where I want them. Now this is starting to look good, but I want to make it look cared for and lived in. So let's add some flowers. Go to the library menu on the toolbar, select flowers. I can use the rotate button to change from a sidewalk planter to a hanging basket. Shrink it down to the correct size and drag it to where I want it. I can change the color of these particular flowers through the color tool. Or I can add a few different colors and shapes from the library. To make it more realistic, though, I need to add some shadows. To add shadows, I add a tree or a lamppost or flowers, whatever object I want shadows of, and then change it to black and white. I rotate it to the correct angle of the sun, and then change the transparency to make the shadow the same intensity as those already on the ground. Then I use the warp tool to make it look like shadows look. And when I'm happy with it, I can duplicate it, and all shadows will have the same effect. Let's take it a step further and show people enjoying the place. I'll add a walker and a family on bicycles. I can flip the direction the cyclists are heading, shrink them down to the right size, add shadows, and I am done. So Emilio, as we return to the slides, let's think about how Port Arthur has a neglected, abandoned city center and is very concerned about economic decline. Trees are part of the answer. With a little vision and some financial support, Port Arthur can have a nice, walkable, shoppable, usable downtown. I started this presentation with the cliche that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, it's also said that every picture tells a story. What's the story that you are trying to tell? Is it that shoppers pay more for goods and services on tree-lined shopping districts and that they're willing to travel farther to shop there? Or is it that residents prefer walking and living on tree-lined roads and that there are less incidences of crime? Is it that children concentrate and have better test scores after being around trees? Well, all that information without the visual may convince some people that trees can be part of the solution to their community problem. But by creating the simulation, you can now put the vision into the hands of stakeholders, and it can be passed along without you as a leave-behind print product through email, posted on Facebook, pinned, or tweeted. It can go far more places and remain longer than your spoken words. And by putting the vision into a picture, you and your partners will tell the same story, not letting it get diluted or altered in the retelling of it, like when you play a game of telephone. So picture it your way and tell your story using CanVis visualization software. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's a product of the USDA Agroforestry Center and the NOAA Coastal Services Center. It's free, and you can get it from the website on this slide. Thank you.